because every single host should obviously provide you with like enough support to help you like update PHP or something, because that's interacting with their platform.
If you really take the time to learn it and understand it, you can do anything you want with WordPress. You can use it as a platform for development, education, liberation, empowerment, whatever, man.
Wait, does that mean we're going to see a resurgence of keyword stuffing?
Not to throw any shade here, but I will just say that there's a difference between building a WordPress website and making one.
Welcome to Impressive Hosting, where we seek to uncover the core tenets of great WordPress hosting. I'm your host, Jesse Friedman, and with me today is Joe Hall. We're continuing our great conversation from the last episode where we were talking about SEO and the importance that hosts play in making sure that their sites are performant and creating a good foundation for customers to have good SEO. We've touched on a lot of different topics. We were talking about ranking in Google and what Google cares about, core web vitals, which has come up a few times on this podcast, the need for hosts to provide performance solutions, and the fact that things like WP Cloud and others out there are recognizing the fact that fully integrated CDNs and caching, edge networks, things like that are a good foundation for customers. Joe, when you start to think about going beyond those core foundational layers there, after that, what should a host be thinking about in terms of maybe bundling with a hosting plan? So, you look at something like Bluehost Cloud, for example. It runs on WP Cloud, so it gets all that great speed underneath. But then on top of it, they include Yoast SEO, for example, which obviously is a plugin that for people at home that they don't know, it's a plugin that helps you to do things that don't come in WordPress core by default, like changing your SEO title, adding meta descriptions, keyword analysis, adding different thumbnails and things like that, and sometimes guiding you into writing better content. But what are some of your favorite tools? What are you using, and what do you suggest?
That's a great question. So I've used Yoast for many years. I like Yoast a lot. Um, there are not too many WordPress specific tools just for SEO that I like to use uh, because there are a lot of tools out there that can help with your SEO kind of like process that are not specifically SEO, related. I use some, for example, I use some redirection plugins to help with handling redirections. That's an important part of SEO is sometimes you have to redirect a URL to another URL. And there are some great redirection plugins out there that can do that for you through WordPress. Um, and then
One of my favorite tools that's just connected to that is I'm gonna flake on the name of it, which is, maybe we can put in the show notes afterwards, but it's a 404 monitor system, so that it tracks when you have a 404, and then you can redirect those
yeah,
URLs to something else.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. A lot of the redirection plugins do that too, and that's great because it can catch 404s from live traffic. So when a user hits
Right.
a 404, it will flag it inside WordPress and then give you the option to turn it into a 301 to redirect it to another section of the site. That can be very helpful for SEO. Um, and then also, there are a handful of tools out there that can help you manage internal linking, which is basically adding links throughout the site's content to specific pages on the website, which that helps a lot with SEO. So there's one out there called Link Whisperer. That's pretty good. There's also Internal Link Manager, which is a pretty good one for that. Those are things that you can use and not even really be focused on SEO, um, but they do help with SEO. But back to what you were talking about, how like Bluehost that's built on top of your WP Cloud and bundles these SEO, Yoast, and all that stuff. I think one of the things that comes up a lot with clients is And this is again not an SEO specific thing, but the level and responsiveness of support personnel for hosting, um, because a lot of the clients I deal with, especially the WordPress clients, they're not technically uh, minded. They may not even have a
Right.
developer in house. They may not have a technical person in house. Truthfully, it's a lot more expensive to hire me out to do like these technical tasks. So sometimes I will mention to them like I'll give them a list of URLs that they need to put redirects in for, and I will say they'll be so lost at how to do that. Even some of the plugins that are super easy to use, they're just at a loss of how to do that. And so I'll say, well, call your hosting company and see if they can help you with that. They may be able to provide some guidance on their support system for setting up these
Right.
redirects instead. And in some cases, that works really well. In some cases, if it's a bad host, they just don't really help that much at all. They just kind of point you to a plugin to use without really doing it for you. So I think that the level of responsiveness from hosting can really be beneficial for SEO too, because there are some things that I'll tell a client to do. Um, because one of my big products is a SEO audit where I go through and I tell uh, all the different technical things that the business needs to execute on. And some of these things they just are completely unaware or unable to do on their own. And I do offer the service of uh, implementing all those things for them. But if they've spent most of their budget already on the audit, or if they're unable to hire me for another consulting engagement, then they really are kind of out of luck when it comes to executing on a lot of those recommendations. And so, having a responsive host that can execute some of them, maybe not everything on there, is beneficial.
Absolutely. I think that's another recurring theme that we see on this podcast is how hosts are handling support. We talk about Pressable, who has experienced WordPress developers who know how to not only build a WordPress website but are familiar with, and they run their own WordPress website, so they have their own favorite tools. They know that they work really well on the platform. Bluehost Cloud, I mention it all the time. They have a tier 3 phone support. You just pick up the phone and you're immediately connected to somebody who knows what they're doing and they're actually going to help you with this stuff. And I think that what you're touching on there is an important thing for a customer when they're choosing a host to differentiate between, because they may talk about how fast they are to respond or whether they have live chat versus phone or whatever. But the bigger question I think there is, are they going to go beyond supporting
And do
just
it
their infrastructure?
and actually
Are
do
they
it.
actually going
Yeah,
to help you with
yeah,
things?
that's exactly
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Uh,
because every single host should obviously provide you with like enough support to help you like update PHP or something, because that's interacting with their platform. But are they going to have help you choose a plugin? Are they going to help you install it? Are they going to help you when you get into a bind and you've got two conflicting plugins, for example? And that's not always easy to suss out. And what we tell people is sometimes you just got to try out in your early days. You do manage WordPress trials, or you sign up with a money back guarantee. Come up with a reason to call support and see what they say no to.
I'll give you an example. One time, I was working with a client. I think it was WordPress, and I think it was a WordPress hosting company. I can't remember the name of the company, uh, but I was working with this uh, client, and they were on a managed WordPress host, and I had to. I was doing something for them. I can't remember what it was, but I remember that I did have a list of redirects that I needed to implement, and I was going to use a plugin for it. But I also remember hearing that this specific host had their own redirection utility, on the back end somewhere that you could like upload a
Sure.
CSV file. And I kind of thought that was a better idea than uh, doing it through the WordPress dashboard, just because uh, if anything with WordPress happened, if there was a plugin conflict or something, that the redirects at least would still work, you know? And so I wanted to use that. And so I called their support line, and I had a huge list of tickets that I had to do for this client. And, and I remember calling that support line and asking them, like, how do I access the redirect utility? And the tech that I spoke to, they were like, well, we have two options. You can log in, click here, go through the user management portal, and then access it there, or you can just email me the CSV sheet. And I was like, for real? And he was like, yeah, just email me the. He would like email me the redirects, and I'll put them in for you. And I was like, bro, you are so awesome. You know, I was
Yeah.
like, I have so much to do for this client. Like that's awesome. You know, so if you can deliver that level of support, I feel like that goes a long way for a client. And even if that client I was working with, they didn't really understand the value of that because they were having me do the work. But I feel like if I would have known ahead of time that they could have done that, instead of asking me to do it, then I would not have, you know, put forth the effort and time into exploring that. And it would have saved them a little bit of money, because of it. And so I think that
Right.
working with a company like that, that really kind of has their customers back, so to speak, um, from a support kind of perspective, I think can be incredibly helpful for SEO, for implementing things that you just are not, that's just out of your depth on, any little bit of help that support can give.
They're actually trying to make sure that they're successful through your success. And that's a really great anecdote. And I'm sure it didn't stop there for that client. Like, obviously, they didn't interact with that customer service rep, but I'm sure they had something that came up in the future and they got that level of support that was really phenomenal for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
That's great. So we've been talking about SEO from the perspective of obviously search engines. Google's probably still the dominant one out there, although I don't have my finger on the pulse of this stuff anymore. Give me an overview of the landscape. Is Microsoft still a big player? Are there other ones out there that are coming in? And then I want to transition because everybody wants to talk about it, but I want to talk a little bit about AI too before we depart on this episode.
Yeah, so you're right. Google is still the dominant player. They last year, they had a brief dip in market share for search, but they went right back up again. Bing has seen a slight increase in search market share. I think that that's probably because of the popularity of ChatGPT. ChatGPT is tied heavily into Bing, and Bing, of course, were the first ones that rolled out their integration of artificial intelligence within the search results. So they did see a little bit of an uptick there, but I think Google is back, to where they used to be. They're still a very much of a dominant player. Um, AI, it really is kind of having an impact on SEO uh, and search in general. I think that it's having a bigger impact on the business of SEO than it is actual SEO itself. And I say that because uh, if you're in the United States, and I guess most everywhere else now, you may see in the search results there is what's called AI overviews that's positioned above the search results. And that has had a significant impact on the way that SEO is kind of uh, done and reported on. So for you know for 20 something years, SEOs have been focused on rankings, and that's been one of our core metrics that we report to our clients on are, those first 10 links on page one, and a change of where your website falls on those rankings is significant. Uh, and usually those rankings correlate with traffic that comes from the search engines, right? So
Yeah.
if you're ranking like position five for a specific term, and then after doing some SEO work, you go up to position two or position one, then you will see your traffic increase. Now because of AI overviews, that correlation is becoming more blurry, um, and now it's possible to see a website rank number one or number two for a specific term, but still see a significant drop in traffic because there are many searchers are not scrolling down below the fold to get to.
Right. They're getting the answer to their question at the top of the SERP.
Yeah, exactly. They give me the answer at the top of the SERP, and then also another big problem we have is that currently, at the time of this recording, early April, uh, there is no way to accurately track mentions or citations within AI overviews. Google is not providing any sort of metric or uh, tracking data for being mentioned inside an AI overview. And so, and even the referral traffic within Google Analytics is just showing up as like organic traffic. So it looks like you're just getting traffic from Google. You still don't know if you're in that AI overview or not. And so that's what I mean by it's changing the business of SEO in that
Yeah.
it's making it much more difficult for us as SEO professionals to report on attribution, uh, even if like traffic might look the same, or visibility might look the same, or rankings might look the same. We're still in this position where we're not able to accurately report on what's going on in regards to organic search and SEO. So
This isn't the first time we've seen this though. Like you think about the top of that search engine results page. That's what we meant by the SERP, and how it's evolved over the years. You think about like a simple question you might ask Google, like, when was Sharon Stone born, or something like that. Years and years and years ago, you had to scroll through the SERP and try to find a page that would, you would hope have the biography information of an actress and give you that information. But Google had started pulling that information out of those and just displaying it at the top and giving you some bio information. And we've seen that evolve over the years. How has that been something that you've been able to attribute to? Like, these people out there who take the time to write this content, and they craft this information for people to consume. And Google's kind of pulling it out and giving it to you, and you're never visiting that website. You're never actually going to that page. Um, how did we rectify that with customers back then
so
when that started coming out?
yeah, so what you're describing is called featured snippets, and featured snippets actually did provide more traffic. Uh, you could get traffic from featured snippets, and depending on what the information in the snippet was, for example, like what you just described, someone's age or someone's birth date probably did not push much traffic onto the website because that's like a clear, just
Right.
a,
Very queer,
yeah,
quick answer.
a very informational query. But things like recipes, for example, they used to put recipes up in featured snippets, and a recipe they can only really show like maybe the list of the ingredients and some of the instructions, but the user would need to get more info in order to actually cook the meal. So they would have to click through to get to it. And in that situation, featured snippets used to push tons of traffic. And in situations like that, I had clients that were fighting for that feature snippet position because it would get the bulk of the traffic for that query, and a lot of there. I actually did a whole talk once about featured snippet optimization, which, by the way, you can find on hallanalysis.com uh, uh, under the learning
Nice
section.
plug.
Yeah, under the learning section, there's a link.
Glad you did it.
Yeah, under the learning section, there is a link to the featured snippet video. But back then, it was possible to get traffic from featured snippets, and I think it's because there is just less opportunity for the user to get distracted, and yes, less opportunity for the user to scroll somewhere else. It was just like this block of info with a link going to more about that topic. And so I think that feature snippets were were kind of a canary in the coal mine almost, where we should have seen this coming. We should have seen uh, AI overviews coming, but we kind of, I think, were pleasantly surprised with featured snippets. For some of us were, and we just figured, okay, well, it's just another source of traffic we can work for our clients, you know. But it turned out to be where AI overviews kind of took that concept, ran with it, and took it to like the next level, to where uh, we're just not seeing that same level of traffic. Google claims the Google claims that the traffic that comes from AI overviews is better quality traffic. So it may be less, but it's more likely to convert. I don't know how they know that because they're not looking at the same data I'm looking at. And based on what everyone is saying, that's not the case. So, you know, who knows? But it is just another kind of thing that's happening right now that changes the business of SEO and changes kind of search in general, you know?
Yeah. I have to say that personally for me, I've been using AI to do more search results, and I've been living in the Google search a lot less. I'll tell you why. For example, there are times when I'm looking for something specific, and Google's very good at telling you, trying to serve up, alternatives. And I think it's getting to a point where it's almost a little bit frustrating. You might look up something because you're looking for a specific, like vehicle, like say a Ford, and then all of a sudden, the first results are always Chevy or someone else because they're competing for that advertising space at the top. But the thing is that it doesn't tend to, at least for me, understand I've already made that decision. I'm already past the purchasing point, and now I want like an accessory or something like that. So selling me a Chevy truck is not going to help me with the cup holder I want for my Ford truck.
Yeah.
And that type of thing continues to happen, and it's been getting frustrating. But with, at least for now, like ChatGPT is a good example. You mentioned it before. There aren't advertising. There isn't no advertising. There is no deception. I don't want to say deception, but there is no trying to reroute you down a different path or try to correct the path that you're on. It just serves you the answer that you're looking for. And so in that way, AI has been very fruitful for me. And also it's better at answering questions than Google has ever been. For example, just yesterday, my wife and I were trying to remember the name of a restaurant somebody recommended to us, and I couldn't remember it, but I did know that it started with the letters BA. It was in Providence, and they served duck. And so that's not the type of thing that you can type into Google and get a result for. But in using ChatGPT, it was able to tell us exactly the name of the restaurant. It gave us a whole bunch of information. It was so helpful. So, in that sense, and also now I've started to see that it also gives you links to those pages to actually prove like where it's getting the information from. So maybe there is some click-through traffic there. But as someone who's running a website, do I have to start to think about how to change the structure of my HTML? Do I have to think about AIs crawling my site differently than a search engine might crawl my site? Do I have to prepare for this?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a good idea to start thinking that way. And I can give you a quick rundown of what I know so far. See if anyone wants to know some tips
Yeah, that's great.
on how to perform well in ChatGPT search. What we know as of now, about half of the uh, large AI models, maybe more than half of them, like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Quad, a few of the others, they are crawling the web this very similar to the way that Google used to crawl the web. And so they are not parsing JavaScript, and they're not really parsing the page at all. So it looks like what they're doing is they're just going in and grabbing the uh, baseline HTML or the DOM, as it were, the direct object model without any rendering, JavaScript rendering or anything like that. So with that, in that regard, it's important, at least now, that websites are server side rendered, and they're not using a lot of client side rendering, or are not relying on
Wait,
JavaScript.
does that mean we're going to see a resurgence of keyword stuffing? So for folks at home, like Joe and I, when we came up, there was so much. There was black hat SEO and there was white hat SEO, and then there was the gray in the middle. And we always had to describe to our customers why you didn't want to go with black hat, because it might give you some short term success, but it was never meant to give you long term
Yeah,
success. And one of the tricks back then was to take white text over a white background to fill the page with content that the user wouldn't see. And so Google had to get good at actually just like discerning the CSS and the
yeah,
JavaScript to be able to see what the visitor would actually see when they
exactly,
get there.
exactly, yeah. No, we don't want. No, we probably will not see keyword stuffing. I hope not. That's another thing too. Regarding language is concerned, large language models do parse language a lot differently than a search engine. So what they do is they vectorize the content, and they turn each word into an individual vector, which within its neural net kind of is assigned a series of numbers that uh, describe the relationship to it from the other words on the page or the other words in the English language, so to speak. And so, from a content perspective, if you want to do well inside a large language model, you really need to consider the words that you own. So your brand name, for example, is going to be critical in the future. And so the more that you can mention your brand name, not only on your own website, but elsewhere out there in the world, the more that you mention it within the context of the topics and uh, categories that you would like to do business in, that's critical and important. So if you have like if Nike wants to perform better within its, LLMs, then it would make sure that every time it mentions the word Nike somewhere, it also surrounds that term with like tennis shoe, football shoe, whatever, different shoe related words, because they want to make sure that their brand name has a strong vector connection to all of the words that they are associated with. And that way, when a user goes into ChatGPT and types in like, soccer cleats or whatever, there's a higher probability of Nike's brand popping up within that response. And so that's kind of like where it's at for language. But back to the technical part of it, I do have a bias for technology. Because they are not rendering pages with JavaScript, websites are going to want to make sure that the HTML they use is standard compliant. It doesn't need to validate. Everybody loves to run their website through the W3 validator or whatever. That it doesn't need to do that, but it does need to use kind of the standards for HTML, so that when the large language model processes that page before it turns it into a vector, it'll turn it into Markdown, and then process it as vectors. And understanding that Markdown, so that like all the H2s are in a Markdown format. We're not sure if they vectorize the terms in individual sections differently. But we want to make sure that they can at least interpret the page in the way that it's supposed to be interpreted. And standard HTML is kind of the best method to make sure they do that. You know.
So is this as simple as when you're testing your site, going into the inspector and disabling JavaScript and making sure that you have a good experience reading it?
Yeah, exactly. Like disabling JavaScript and make sure that everything is still visible is going to be really helpful in that regard.
All right, well, we're getting to the end of our time here, but we did ask the community if they had any questions. And we did have a question. This is for you, Joe, specifically. Which tools does he use mostly in his analysis? Does he still use Google Analytics? Does he hate that as much as I and many others since V4? And this is actually coming from Yoast himself.
Oh, okay. Well, I laugh because he I think he probably already knows all the answers to those questions.
Sure.
So so I use for analysis. I use something called Screaming Frog, which is a website crawler, and it mimics search engine crawlers, and it will crawl your website and feed back a bunch of data that relates to SEO. And yes, I still use Google Analytics for. I just was on a podcast not long ago where I was ranting and raving against it. But I have to admit, I still use Google Analytics for. It's not my favorite thing anymore. But I think that it is the best thing we have as an industry. I hate that Google owns it. I wish that some other software company had developed it and given it away for free, like Google did. Uh, but unfortunately, Google does own it. There are a lot of problems with it, but it really is the best option out there. So I still use Google Analytics for. I've recently got into using a lot of Looker Studio uh, because the funny thing about Analytics 4 is uh, to use it correctly, you have to make your own custom reports. But I have recently found that Looker Studio is actually easier to make custom reports with. So, if you're working with a client that doesn't want to mess around with technical stuff, and Looker Studio is great for that. Um, but I use Yoast a lot. Um, but also, with WordPress, uh, I've been programming on WordPress since 2007, and so I've gotten into the habit now where I'll just spin up a plugin if I need to, for a client. If an SEO plugin can't do something I need it to do, if their theme can't do it, I just write up the plugin. And if you are a programmer or you want to be a programmer, then I strongly encourage you to go and read as much as you can about on the WordPress Codex on WordPress.org. Um, it is something that I think if you really take the time to learn it and understand it, you can do anything you want with WordPress. You can use it as a platform for development, education, liberation, empowerment, whatever, man. But learning as much as you can about the code to make all that happen is where it starts. And
I love that you went down that road, Joe, because I came up in WordPress. I was teaching at a university at the time. I've had hundreds of students go through my classroom, and I always taught WordPress. Later, I wrote a book on it because of the fact that everybody can use and benefit from a website. As you said, there's a million reasons why. And so it's accessible to them. It's something that they can actually feel that they're tangibly putting out, and it actually has a real use in the world. I used to teach like things like Flash and video game design and things like that. And so you might make a little video game and nobody's ever going to play it. You don't really feel strongly about like what you did or get a lot of personal feedback on it. But when you build a website, it's visible for the whole world, and you can pull out your phone and you can show it to somebody at a bar or a museum or whatever you want. There's something really great about that. But in going through and building on WordPress, you're learning HTML, you're learning CSS, you're learning PHP, you're learning SQL, you're learning JavaScript, you're learning APIs. There's so much stuff, and as you grow, you can actually create an entire like CS degree in building WordPress. So
Yes.
you're right. You're absolutely right. If you're interested in getting into programming, go build a WordPress website and see how far it'll take you, because I think you'll be amazed.
And also, not to throw, I know that we're running out of time, but not to throw any shade here, but I will just say that there's a difference between building a WordPress website and making one.
Yeah,
And not just, making a WordPress website is phenomenal, and I encourage anyone to do that if they want to. But building one can be so much more empowering. And learning the code behind the the infrastructure and just getting your hands dirty with that kind of thing, I think is where the real power comes in.
absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, we talk about this all the time. That like, you have people who are running a business, and I always joke around because it's an easy one. But like, you might be a pastry chef or a bakery, or run a bakery, and that's where your passion lies. You want to craft something, you want to make something, bake it, bring people around a table, give them something good to eat, and that's their passion. And they don't necessarily want to build a website and become a web designer. They want to just get a website up so that they can continue their own passion. And in that case, implementing what, I think is typically like the way we would word it is like you're implementing a WordPress website, you're installing a theme, you're configuring things. You might be using some patterns or templates or whatever, but you're getting through it as fast as you can so you can get back to the work of working your passion. But what you touched on there with programming and having a passion around computer science and building and programming, this is one of the things that drew me to WordPress, and it's one of the things I think that Matt Mullenweg himself, who is the co-founder of WordPress, I think we gave him a lot of credit early on, but I think we've forgotten about how many people have gotten their start from WordPress because it was built in a way to expand your knowledge and to grow and to improve yourself. And when he said to learn JavaScript deeply, whatever that was, 7, 8 years ago, maybe 10 years ago now, it was a perspective of you need to learn it for your business to continue operating within WordPress. But what I think a lot of times what people didn't realize is what he was saying is that this is the future of the internet. And if you want to expand your knowledge and grow and build a career around this and have passion of computer science, like this is a technology that you need to learn. And we're implementing it into WordPress, not only so that it's available to everybody, but that so that you can continue on that path of using WordPress as a way to springboard into computer programming and growing a career. And to me, that's one of the reasons why I got into and I'm still in WordPress today.
yeah, definitely. I mean, it is. I've always felt that WordPress is definitely this platform for empowerment. And I've always felt that from the very beginning. I mean, from when I first started writing code on WordPress, it was just sort of like this thing. I was like, my God, like you can do anything with this thing. One of the first things I did with WordPress was create a real estate website, and this was before uh, real estate themes really existed. And so I created this theme for a real estate company that had a bunch of custom fields in it for all uh, the listing data. I think I even had a custom post type in there as well, and it was all built around like 80% of the content on the site was going to be like real estate listings, and so it didn't make sense to have like a regular like blog post theme. So I built out this whole custom thing, and I was so proud of myself back then. I thought about packaging it up, calling it Real Press, uh, and then kind of like ignoring the whole idea and like going on to something else. I like went on to something else completely different. But now I look back on that thinking, God, man, I could have been like a millionaire at this point if I would have stuck with that idea. Because there was no real estate like WordPress things out there at that point. Um, but now there's like lots of different real estate themes and plugins and stuff like that. But there's so much like that you could do to just like build your own experience. I have a nonprofit client on WordPress right now that I built a custom post type uh, and a bunch of custom fields specifically just so they could have like their own internalized database. Um, and none of that content gets published. Uh, on the site. It's just internally, it gives them a place that anyone in their staff can go to and search through this like database that's all powered through one plugin that I built for them. It's like their own little intranet powered through the back end of WordPress. You
Oh,
know,
that's cool.
yeah. So
Yeah, there's definitely some things within WordPress where, oh, sorry, I think we got a little delayed there, but there's definitely things you mentioned, unlocking custom field types and custom post types and things like that. There's definitely elements of WordPress. It's almost like a gamification without the formal gamification, in the sense that
yeah,
you reach a new milestone and you learn how to do something new, and it unlocks this new thing, and you're super proud of it. And then you kind of like you flourish in it because you're like, wow, there's so much more I could be doing here. The minute I remember unlocking custom fields, that's why I was laughing, because it was like all of a sudden, when you build structured data in a way that allows for you to give somebody a form to fill out rather than a
yes,
blank canvas,
yeah.
all of a sudden you can do so much with it, and it creates, it empowers you to do really cool things with the design and stuff like that. But Joe, while this was an amazing conversation, we are a bit over, so I think I'm going to have to pull the plug here. But can I ask you to come back and we continue this conversation, because this has been awesome.
Yes, absolutely. I would love to come back, Jesse. I'm a big fan of you, and I'm always here to talk about WordPress anytime. It's been a pleasure to be here.
I'm always around to talk to anybody who's a
Okay.
big fan of me. So,
Okay. Sounds good. That sounds good.
all right. So, Joe, before we go, Joe, so it's hallanalysis.com. I know you're on socials. I don't know if you want to share any, and you're always giving talks too. Is there a place where we can see you anytime soon, or meet up?
No, I am not. I'm not going to be anywhere this year. But I'm always on LinkedIn. I'm kind of like not really doing anything for business outside of LinkedIn anymore. My other
Oh,
socials,
okay.
my other socials are just about junk food now at this point. So
Gotcha.
LinkedIn is the best place to find me. I'm Joe Hall. I think Joe W Hall on LinkedIn. So you can check me out there. And I post on there almost every day about SEO stuff.
All right, Joe. Well, we'll have you back on soon. Thanks so much for coming.
All right, man. Thanks a lot, Jesse. You have a good one.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Impressive Hosting, where we uncover the core tenets of great WordPress hosting. Do you have a follow-up question for today's guest, thought or comment on anything we talked about, a future guest suggestion, a hosting horror story? What do you think makes great WordPress hosting? All your comments shape this show. Drop them on impressive.host. We also appreciate you following us on social media and subscribing to the podcast on your favorite platform. Finally, do check out our list of open source projects that need support at impressive.host. Whether it's code, community, or cache, you can make a difference. See you next time.